So somebody's mad at me, a friend of mine is mad at me because I think she's having a really difficult time talking about the subject that I brought up last week pretty intensely, race relations. I was just talking about my own personal thing, my own feeling about the the atmosphere here in the States right now. And oh my gosh. And I was also talking about the subject. I was talking about that term in my last vlog. I said, let's not use that term. It's offensive, so let's not use it. Let's just talk about what's wrong. And I was talking about what's going on and what I was feeling. And then I was talking about how CNN is backing up the whole thing. Homeland Security is yeah, main threat. It's this racial thing. I'm like, oh my God. And so I'm writing this thing, and then she writes me back. I did this via Messenger. She writes me back 3 paragraphs. And none of the paragraphs had anything to do with what I had so painstakingly shared with her. I mean, I was in tears as I was writing this, and I was talking about the tears and not being able to articulate the emotion and stuff. I'm saying these words, it's a really big thing. She really kind of made light of it, which is part of what the whole subject was in that vlog. It was about not being able to get folks to understand, where someone is coming from, and they don't understand because they don't relate, because they don't have that threat or problem in their life. So it's kind of come on now, they might sort of kind of belittle it. And I don't think she meant to do that, but that's what ends up happening. And then I react to that, and now she's mad at me. Oh, Lord, can we just talk about... I mean, I do get a kind of giggle at it if I look at the big picture. But can we just talk about why this is happening? Because I have a theory, about a theory and a half, about why it is so difficult. Not only difficult to talk about race relations, but why the atmosphere emotionally is so frickin' volatile right now in the United States with regard to politics, which is intensely about race relations right now. So I believe that it is one thing, it's one of 2 things or both of these things in combo. One is reincarnational history. Okay, so if you don't buy reincarnation, feel free to flip to the next video. Watch something else. I'm not here to convince you about reincarnation. let's do a little bit of time, do a whole hour about reincarnation, or read one of my books. That would be the bomb. I will below in the box below. Please. I've got 2 really extensive books with regard to reincarnation. The whole thing is spelled out there. But let's just assume that you are with me and this is old news. Reincarnation. Okay? Okay. If it is true, then that means that we do lifetimes over and over. Not, the same lifetime over and over again, but we come back, we do another lifetime, we do a different lifetime, and a different. My philosophy on this is what I've learned, and I hold this, I buy this school of thought, that we do these different lifetimes for the purpose of having different learning curriculum each time, and that they're prearranged with everybody that we're doing them with. There are no real surprises, really, in the big picture. We've planned everything that we end up in. Okay, so reincarnational history, okay? And I'm talking about history that we experienced back in the days of Civil War. And prior to Civil War, the stuff that led up to the Civil War. Okay, wherever we were there. And in that case, in reincarnation, we could have been anything. We'll talk about that in a second. The other way to look at this, which is extremely real, is the cellular memory, which comes along with DNA, bloodline, from our bloodline. So that means our physical bloodline ancestors, and what they experienced, any trauma that they may have experienced at any point is passed down to the next, the offspring. And in the DNA, there's memory, and there's cellular memory that happens. So when I was having, if you watch the video from last time, and I'm talking about, going through 2 days, I'm extremely clairsentient, and so I'm vibing in, I'm tuned in, totally connected to a frequency that is negative, and it's energy that is like in preparation for like violence, and all reflecting around white supremacy, and that I'll just like say it, but when I experienced this, the emotion that I felt around it made me feel like, wow, I could not articulate it. I wasn't feeling fear, but I was definitely feeling deep, deep sadness. Like, oh my God, a deep abyss of sadness. And I didn't know, it felt like something a little bit familiar, like something I had been involved with. And I knew I hadn't been involved with any of that in this incarnation. So it has to have been from a previous incarnation. So there's that. I was also fortunate in this moment on the second day of this deep depression over what I was picking up, to become very aware and conscious of my ancestors, of ancestors who are souls who are not me, who were around me, and being very aware of what's happening. And I could totally get that through me and my healing in this situation, they also are being healed. So we are extensions of our parents, and I mean that literally and figuratively, but let's talk about the literal part, as I mentioned a moment ago about cellular memory and DNA memory and stuff like that. So we have that, we're an extension from them, of them, in that respect, and they are an extension of their parents, and their parents are an extension of their parents, and so on and so forth. And when I look back at my own history, oh my God, on my dad's side, he comes from Virginia, born in the 30s, and so he did the 30s and the 40s and the 50s in an extremely segregated, racist area. So grateful that he's still alive, you know what I mean? And he got to be my daddy and everything. But then his mom, also raised in that same area, and raised in a town that was created for the slaves who worked for their masters in Richmond. So this is a neighboring little city called Petersburg, Virginia. And then my grandmother, my dad's mom, remembers, well, her grandmother, not her mom, but her grandmother was half, indigenous American, like people here before Christopher Columbus, before the Pilgrims, before like first. And her hair goes like down like to her knees, this beautiful silky long hair. So half African descent and half indigenous American, and then somehow I'm like 1/18th. And I'm proud of that too, I want you to know. But it's okay. On my mom's side, my grandmother, so my mother's mother, told me one day, she's like, I remember my grandfather. And she remembered him in just the sweetest, kindest, most lovable way. She remembered him brushing her mother's hair. And he was a slave owner. This is in Jamaica. A slave owner from Sweden. And, when I think about like reincarnation, if I was a slave owner in a previous life, I would like to have been him, because she remembers him fondly. And if I was going to be, if I had to live during that period of time and I had a bunch of money and I could afford a bunch of slaves and stuff, I would want to be the coolest freaking slave owner ever. And my people would be like able to do whatever they want to do and everything. And I'd be nice to them and I'd be happy to be, you know what I mean? So I was like happy to hear about that. Not to make light, because, I'm sure, well, she did not have any bad memories. My grandmother did not have bad memories of that. So there you go. So here we are, and we're in this time, and it is extremely intense right now. And my thing is, when we reincarnate, we do not always come back the same race. We don't come back the same culture. We don't come back the same political party, the same religion. Now, you could be Muslim one time and Catholic the next. It's not always the same, and we have these different situations and the predicaments, conundrums that we end up in lifetime after lifetime, so that we can have our learning curriculum. So I have that to say, and I say that with, gosh, if people really knew where they were and what they were doing at certain times of especially national trauma, with like race relations and stuff, your way of being, your level of emotion about certain issues might be tempered a bit. You might step back and go, okay, wait, why do I feel a certain way? I imagine people back in those days, like, the frustrated folks, people who, like, say, had relatives, their father, their uncle, or whatever, was like the meanest freaking slave owner ever. What if that was you? And, like, did you, like, then just sit in frustration the whole lifetime and not say or do anything and just be frustrated about it? Or did you sneak and try to do things to make it better for the slaves? Or did you, like, sneak and try to help, like, did you get a few of them, to help them escape and stuff like that? You know what I mean? What did you do? Were you a bystander? Were you frustrated? And, are you remembering that? That, I believe, people are remembering stuff like that. Hopelessness, helplessness, feeling like there was nothing you could do and still live, to help this situation, which was not okay. And then ultimately, we had the war between the North and the South over this. People willing to die over this. And so I think about, George Floyd happened, and a bunch of young people who were not even here during the 60s, feeling civil rights and what went down, took off to the streets. They forgot their masks and flew to the streets to make a statement. And I feel like a lot of that is like coming from cellular memory, where they just knew what they needed to go do. Not only that, times now are different than they were back then, because now we're seeing it. We're taking, we're on our phones and videoing and sharing that across the country, across the globe. And yeah, certain things are just intolerable, and folks are not afraid to stand up and be heard right now. I think a lot of that has to do with our reincarnational history, as well as ancestors urging us, to move forward and kind of guiding us to say, yeah, please stand up, for this, and you stand up and you heal in this right now, and that'll help heal me too for what I went through back in the day. And know that, you might be white this time, but you might have been that African American lynched and hanging from a tree back on at that other point, or who knows what it is that has you knowing so easily, looking at the situation and going, this is not fair, this is not right, while another person is looking at it going, yeah, no, it's perfectly fair, it's perfectly right, and this country needs to be all white, pure white. No drop of anything else needs to be here. There's that. So, like, why? Where's that coming from? So I'm hoping that I need to stop now because it's going too long, but we're going to talk about it more, because I want to talk about, like, how do we go about actually healing that stuff from deep down, way back in our histories, like before we physically got here this time. It's big stuff, and it has to happen, and it's part of the healing of this particular nation. Thank you so much for being here. Flashing across the screen now where you can find me. Have a great day. Yeah, be well.